It's The Corral on GoMileHigh.com. I'm your host, Kelly. Helping me out, I've got the Redneck and Greg back in studio because I am broadcasting live from the Rocky Mountain Horse Expo right here at the Denver Coliseum. We've got a booth. Come by and say hi if you make it on down. You can't step inside the building without, first of all, seeing all kinds of smiling faces and cowboy hats. In addition to that, you'll walk 10 feet and learn something. So come on down and hang out for a couple hours. You'll leave a genius, I promise. It's really great. I have the pleasure of visiting with Kami Guildner. Have you been around horses all your life?
Whole life. Very fortunate. I grew up on the plains of Colorado.
Really?
And was able to go, jump on my horse all day long and ride all day, and the cornfields and the bar ditches. And I think that's where very early on I realized that I could get on my horse in the morning and have questions and ride all day long, and somehow at the end of the day the answers would come to me. And so inherently I understand what's going on, because as a little girl that's what I did all the time, just to work through the teenage life.
Right. And when did you discover that was there a point in your life when you said, I need to figure something out, I need to get on my horse and ride, in order to work out that question in your life?
Always. My mother used to, as a little girl, when I was a little girl, my mom would say, maybe you need to go on a ride today.
Wow. Okay, so tell me about what you're doing right now, the reason that you're here at the Rocky Mountain Horse Expo.
So I work with people who are trying to figure out what their next chapter in their life is. And I help people tap back into their strengths and their values and their passions and just everything that is the essence of them. And I do that with the horses. The horses are part of that journey. When I bring clients in, they're going through one of my retreats or some of my coaching programs that are about tapping into who they are as a person, and the horses guide that process.
Okay, and how long usually do these types of clinics of yours last?
I have a lot of 2 or 3 day retreats.
Okay.
And they go, I've got them scheduled all through the summer, starting in May and going through September.
Really? Okay, I want to talk more about that, but really quick, let's tell people how they can find that. Where would they go to sign up for a clinic, or I guess I should find out first what your target audience is for the kind of clinics you're talking about.
I work with a lot of people who are have been in the corporate world and have decided that they want to do something different, but they're not really sure what that is. And they're sitting there and they're kind of scratching their head and they're thinking, what's next for me? And I'm ready to do something different, but what is it? I don't know. And they've come through this economy and things are coming on the flip side of this, and they're ready to make that change. And so I work with people that are ready to make some big transitions in their life.
Okay. So, and where would they go to find you?
They would go to find me at Syzygy, Syzygy.
I'm so glad you said it first.
syzygy-co.com.
Okay, now Syzygy, I looked up the definition. Tell me what it means to you.
Oh, it's a wonderful word. It means when 3 celestial bodies are in alignment, and so it means alignment and balance, and that's what I bring to my clients' lives. And I bring alignment and balance through the power and the wisdom of the horse.
Okay, and how did you come up with this term? Where did you find it? Why did you choose to use this?
Oh, it's funny because I actually wanted to when I was had a foal, one of my horses that I have today, when I was 13. I was wanting to name her, and I had an aunt in Maryland who said to me, you should name your horse Syzygy because there's such cool meaning behind it. And my mom kind of thought, oh, that's kind of a funny name to name a horse, and it was my mom's mare. And so I kind of listened to my mom and said, okay, Mom, you're the mom of this horse for the first 3 months of its life. I won't name it Syzygy. And which is funny because at some point I knew Syzygy would come back around. And when I started the company 3 years ago, it just instantly was like, that's what I'm supposed to name my horse or my company, because I've had this word in my head and it means alignment and balance, and that's what I stand for, and helping people find alignment and balance.
Okay.
And that's where it came.
Okay, so Syzygy, one more time, Syzygy.
GY.
GY. Easy to remember, easy enough. Once you wrap your head around it, Syzygy. I love it. I love what it stands for. So, tell me what you were doing prior to starting this company.
I was 20 plus years in the corporate world. I was a VP of marketing. I worked for a very large multinational organization and traveled around the world and led a crazy, crazy lifestyle.
And people can't see this, but I'm going to describe the look on your face when you talk about that is stressed.
It is. And I started to think about it, and it's like that was, I was a very different person. And in fact, I, really was at a place where I lost some of my lost touch with who I was as a person. And I didn't know that. I couldn't have told you that at the time. I thought I was on this path. I was kind of living this persona that I had created for myself,
mm-hmm.
and couldn't have told you that I'd lost touch with that person that I grew up, that young girl riding on the horse in the plains.
Right.
So
now, was there a particular moment, or were you was it a long thought process to start this company, or did you take a ride and come back home and say, I quit?
Oh, I actually had so I got laid off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but that was the first gift, though.
Right.
So that was the first gift, was I got laid off. The second gift was I got laid off in the year 2008, when there wasn't a whole lot of VP of marketing jobs to be found.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was, so there was this shake up in my life that made me stop, and it made me stop for a good 18 months because I wasn't finding another job. And I was very determined that that's where I was going to go, was back to the corporate world. And so I was doing all this job hunting, and nothing really seemed to fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, where am I supposed to take this? And why is not, I'd go on an interview for a company, and I'd leave the interview and go, God, I hope I don't get that job.
Oh,
because,
wow.
I knew that something was shifting inside of me.
Mm-hmm. And all during this time, did you have horses? Were you still riding, being active?
I've had horses my whole life.
Okay.
So I've been very fortunate that way.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the midst of that 18 months, I lost my father as well. So some very, it took me back to thinking about the lessons my father had taught me.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, I'm connecting back into who I am and going a little bit deeper. And so the day that there was a day where I was trying to figure out where I was going to go, and I was upset one day, really trying to figure out where's my path and why is nothing fitting. And what happened was kind of this whole circumstances of events where I ended up on the phone with a coach. And she told me, go out and breathe your horse's breath today because, I know you're upset. I'm hearing this. I want you to just go out to the barn and take some time and spend time with your horse and breathing in their breath.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a day where it had snowed like 18 inches of snow. So, a Colorado day, you can imagine
mm-hmm.
it. It's quiet. It's peaceful. You walk out the door and the trees are weighted down from all of that snow.
Right.
And I walked out to the barn, and one of my horses was there, and she was like, I've got a message for you.
Really?
Totally looking at me like, I'm here for you. Come breathe with me.
Wow.
And so I did, and I walked up to her and, kind of bent down and started just breathing back and forth with her. And it was, this frosty morning where the whiskers were covered in frost. And, you're getting that breath. And it's when I was in that space, that big heart space of hers, that suddenly all my pieces of my puzzle, all the work that I've been doing for 18 months, trying to figure out who I was and what I was supposed to be about, laid down, and all the pieces came together.
Wow.
It was one of those very special moments in life that you just go, oh my gosh.
Right. And well, kudos to you for being open to it.
Yeah.
You could have just said it's too cold out. I'm not going to go out. I don't feel like it.
No, I was definitely supposed to do that day.
That's awesome. So tell me, what do you mean by coach? You called your coach. I see that you are part of the International Coaching Federation. Is that the same thing?
I am. Uh-huh.
Okay.
So the coaching is really about helping people tap into who they are and discover what path they're supposed to be on.
Okay, and are they all equine?
No.
And how many are you rare among the coaches?
Among the whole worldwide International Federation of Coaches, there is a much smaller number of equine guided coaches.
Right. I think you guys have an edge. You have a very useful tool.
Oh, definitely have an edge
others.
because it's the horses can teach us so much more than we can learn all on our own.
Right. When you don't know you're behaving a certain way, your horse will tell you.
Oh yes, they will mirror that right back to you. And
Exactly.
And they'll hold you to in a very authentic space. So if you start to talk about something that's not really true for you, they're not going to tap into you. They'll kind of go, whatever.
Exactly. Tell me how starting this business and doing it for the past 3 years, how that has changed you as well.
Well, every year I just continue to go to this much deeper spot. I think that I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. I love making an impact in people's lives and helping them to that next space. So when you think about giving back to others in that way on a day-to-day basis, it's it changes your life because you're contributing to the good of our world, I guess.
Right.
If somebody would have asked me 4 years ago, how do you contribute to the good of the world? I would have looked at them like, I don't know. That wasn't a question I could have answered.
Right. Okay.
But this was, I can definitely today say that, I make a difference in the lives of others, and that feels good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so give me a breakdown of just a basic 3-day, a short breakdown, of your basic 3-day, you don't call them a clinic, what do you call them?
I call them a retreat.
A retreat, beg your pardon.
Because it is a retreat.
Right, that's a better word.
It's for people to go away and really spend focused time on themselves, and how often do we do that?
Okay, so somebody signs up, somebody's at a crossroads in their life, and they sign up, and then what happens?
So they start with a little pre-homework where they're kind of digging into successes in their life. It's a question there that asks them to think about really happy and passionate times in their lives, and what was it about that time in their life that really felt good to them. So they're starting to do some self-exploration. So they come starting with the opening of their mind, I guess, is what happens as they start to come through with that. And then, secondly, they when they get to the retreat, I ask them to they start with drawing a card and kind of seeing what's the message that they need to be starting with. And, very often there's a really important message that comes out. So they're like inspiration kind of cards. And
Right. So, and you're using all this information to try and
just open up,
to customize the retreat for each person.
Well, and it's getting people to think about where they're going, and so every time I call it, they're pulling back the layers each time.
Okay.
Whether it's with a card, whether it's with the upfront interview, when we get with the horses. We do a lot of observation kind of work, getting them to just tune and be much more aware of their environment. And by getting really tuned into the environment, what happens is the somatics of their body starts to shift and change. And you think about where we carry tightness in our bodies, in our necks, and our arms, just from our life that we live.
Right. Okay.
If people start to slow down to that pace of the horse, they start to let that go automatically, and so they're not even aware that they're letting that go. And you can really see the horses will mirror that back to them, mirror back when they come in with all this intense energy, and then they start to release, and suddenly the horses are tapping into them and really becoming, just really tuned into them.
Okay.
And what we're teaching them there is really to become aware of, how is that horse responding to you?
Right. Okay.
Because it's not just a horse standing there.
Right.
You've got to kind of learn to start to interpret what's going on and how they're responding to you.
Okay, so it's not so much teaching these people how to deal with horses per se.
No.
It's more you do all the tacking and kind of babysit them to get them.
Well, there's not even riding in any of my retreats. It's all on the ground.
Really?
So it's that interaction with horses that really put you into this different place and put you in a place where you can explore personally for yourself, and open your mind up to new ideas and thinking that you might not otherwise be tapped into.
Okay. Well, when we come back, I want to get into more, what horses you use and where you go, and some success stories I'd like to hear about when we come back to the corral right here on GoMileHigh.com. It's the corral on GoMileHigh.com. I'm your host, Kelly. Helping me out, I've got the Redneck and Greg back in studio because I am broadcasting live from the Rocky Mountain Horse Expo right here at the Denver Coliseum. We've got a booth. Come by and say hi if you make it on down. You can't step inside the building without, first of all, seeing all kinds of smiling faces and cowboy hats. In addition to that, you'll walk 10 feet and learn something. So come on down and hang out for a couple hours. You'll leave a genius, I promise. It's really great. I have the pleasure of visiting with Kami Guildner, and I'm going to try and say this word again. Syzygy. Thank you. I was hoping you'd say it. After you say it, I could say it. It's like synergy, but it's Syzygy.
It is Syzygy.
And then I look at all these these letters at the end of the alphabet are not my friends.
SYZY.
So Syzygy. So people can go to your website and look this up. People who are looking for a change in their life, or they have a question, as you put it earlier. I really like that. And you will get these people around horses. So tell me how that goes. Where do they go? Whose horses are they spending time with?
Right. So as in the retreats, they're spending time with my horses. I've got 4 of them.
You're very generous.
They're wonderful at this work, and they love this work.
They must. And are they the horses that I see when I come up to visit?
They are the horses that you see at your sister's window.
And meeting all these stressed out people, and then it must be therapeutic for the horse as well. I mean, maybe they know that they're helping somebody, and I
think they do, because as soon as I bring a group of people into the arena with them, they are engaged and around us and ready to play. I mean, they just absolutely love the work. I do some round pen work on day 2 of my retreats, and as soon as I take a group out there, they're usually standing at the gate, trying to be the one that gets to go in and do the round pen work. They're like, "It's me, pick me today."
Wow.
Yeah, they really, really like it.
What breeds of horses do you have?
I have 2 paints, and I have a Swedish warm blood. And then I also have an old quarter horse who's my wise soul of the whole herd.
And isn't that typical?
Yes.
Your old quarter horse is always your wise soul.
Yes.
The grounding.
Oh, he is. He's this big, solid, grounding horse. When somebody needs strength, somebody needs to cry, somebody needs that, really solid, grounded support in their journey, he's the one that shows up. Okay, so you've got people and horses in the same arena. The horses are they tethered? Oh no, they're loose. They're loose. I kind of break my arena into a couple different sections, and I'll start people separate from the horses, with the horses loose on the flip side. But then I'll let people start to move in with the horses and just really start to experience the notice their breath, notice their heartbeat, and start to tune into the horses in a different way. Okay. And start to notice themselves. Does my heartbeat change? Does my body change when I'm in the presence of these horses? Right. And what happens is, yes, it does. Yeah. Okay. So tell me the difference between a person on day 1 as opposed to day 3. Them personally, and then also their interaction with their horses, what specifically they're doing with the horses on day 1, and then on day 3 the change and what they're doing with the horses then. Okay, so as people generally come into the retreats on day 1, they've been on their cell phones, they've been driving, they've been trying to get there on time. It's that kind of pace that we live every day. Okay, and they walk out into the arena with the horses, and pretty much generally reflects that the horses are like, okay, I feel all this big energy that's just come into the arena, and when you start getting the participants to pay attention to the breathing and just their energy presence with the horses and how that connects, what you'll see is the people's energy changes. Their energy levels come down, their heart opens up, their breathing changes. Right. And what happens is the horses come in and really start to connect to the people in a very different way. So the people get that really quickly, that change, and can see that change that takes place.
Okay.
And then, throughout the first day, they're doing kind of their own, they're starting to explore their own, who am I? And the horses are part of that all day long. We do medicine wheels, a medicine wheel where they, the people are starting to look to each direction to kind of do some self-pondering. An old tool that the Native Americans used in all of their storytelling. Mm-hmm. And it really opens up their thinking again. It's pulling back another one of those layers.
Right. So you have the people making a medicine wheel?
They do. They bring something that represents each of the four directions plus something at the heart. And they share why they chose those items. And then we walk through. It's kind of a guided meditation.
Okay. And then is that something they can keep?
Well, the medicine wheel is a big round thing.
Okay,
it's in the middle of my arena.
Okay,
it's a big thing in the middle of my arena that people go in and they place their different things in.
I see.
And, so, it's
I was picturing, like hobby shop at camp where you sit down and make your own.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, no, but they bring things that are meaningful to them.
Right.
Something from their, like when you look to the south, it's about what's the child within want to tell you about your journey you're on right now. And so they might bring something from their childhood.
Okay.
Or and if you look to the north, it's about the wisdom of your elders. And so they might bring a picture of their grandmother or something like that.
Okay.
So, it makes it very personal for them.
And all the while, the horses are just wandering around and hanging out.
Yeah, so they're part of, they're just there.
Okay, so by day 3, do you find that people have found their favorite horse or?
Oh, and people definitely gravitate towards specific horses.
And does it tell you something about that person?
Well, not necessarily, because, it's whichever horse is supposed to, be there for, throughout the course of the 3 days, all 4 horses may end up working with one person.
Oh.
It's just different times when a message is, and it's been fun because my horses have taken on very different roles.
Okay.
In the process, in this. And so I mentioned already my old gelding has taken on kind of this sage role.
Right.
I have my Swedish warmblood has taken on, she's very expressive.
Okay.
And so she's kind of the big motherly element, but also.
Now, I want to hear about the other 2 horses, and I want to know how they have changed through this process as well when we come back to the corral.
Okay.
Right here on GoMileHigh.com. It's the corral at GoMileHigh.com. I'm your host, Kelly, broadcasting live from the Rocky Mountain Horse Expo. I've got the pleasure of chatting with Kami Guildner with a Syzygy. I said it.
You said it right.
And now, we were talking before about, I'm curious about if you've noticed improvement or changes in your horses.
I definitely noticed changes. I think the biggest change I've noticed is with my gelding that I mentioned that is the sage of my herd.
Right.
I've had him for, since my son, who is now 29, was in 4-H. So long time I've had him.
I was in 4-H too. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good old 4-H. I love it. And so he was part of, I've had him for a really long time. And he was one of those kinds of horses that, he was kind of standoffish, didn't like to be loved on a lot. And I would love on him anyway. It's like as part of being my horse, you get to get loved on, and that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And when I went to do my certification, I'm a certified equine guided educator.
Okay.
I went to California for a month-long program where I entrenched myself in this work and came back from the training. And when I got back, he was at the gate looking at me like, it's about time you figured this out because we've got stuff to do. His whole persona changed. And like I said, he's been the one that has been the healer through all of this.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's very early on, he was the one that got just most engaged when I bring a group in. And I think he's kind of been the leader in helping the others kind of come and figure out what their role is going to be in the mix of all of the work that we're doing. And and like I said, he's the one that, I have some really wonderful stories about how he's shown up to be the healer.
Okay, give me a good one.
Okay, when I did a retreat a couple years ago, it was in the fall, and the weather was starting to change, and he actually had a mild case of colic that weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, and so he wasn't feeling good. But he gets that way. I know when the weather changes, I've had him for so long. I know that when the weather starts to change, he gets this little, so I just kind of let him come and go.
I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I've had so many court horses that do that in the fall.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but it's, Yeah. So we were doing the retreat, and most of the weekend he would just stay in the barn, but every once in a while he would come out and kind of show up. And I was doing a round pen exercise with a woman who'd been there. This is our last day of the retreat. And so she's in a round pen with a horse. And there's a horse on the outside of one of my paint geldings is on the outside.
Okay.
And she's not really getting to the heart. And you can tell in the round pen exercise, she's brought an inquiry to the round pen to talk about where she's going in her life.
Okay.
And she's not really getting to the heart of it. And my paint gelding that was standing on the outside of the gate took the rope gate and was like he was shaking it, but it wasn't like he was shaking it like he was playing with it. He was shaking it like he was really, really angry. And he keeps doing it, and he keeps doing it. And so finally I said to her, I have to just ask you a question. And I said, are you angry about something? Because this horse is really reflecting anger back in some way here. So I'm just going to ask you this question. And she says, well, as a matter of fact, and then she proceeded to tell the story why she was really angry.
Oh, my.
And as she told that, tears came. And my gelding, Dakota, comes out of the barn, pushes the paint gelding out of the way and says, hello, it's my turn. He pushes himself, plops himself right next to this person.
Oh, my gosh.
She cries on his shoulder.
Oh.
And she finishes crying. She releases, kind of lets a lot of this go that she was holding up inside of her and not talking about. This big emotion she was pushing down inside. She lets it loose. And as soon as she finishes, he turns around and goes back to the barn. And it's like, okay, my work was done here.
Oh, my gosh. Now, I have to ask you, do you have just, the strongest heart dealing with these emotions as often as you do, people crying, or are you crying right along with them? I think
Sometimes.
I would be.
Sometimes I do.
Oh,
but I think what I see is that the horses bring healing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, I don't know exactly, I guess I do. Inherently, I know that my horses make me feel better, And so that's part of it.
Right.
They definitely have a healing element to them.
Do you find that you have people coming back wanting more?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Oh,
definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you must.
I've had clients here this weekend saying, "I can't wait to come up and be there."
Really?
So, yes.
Good.
Yes.
It almost sounds. Well, it doesn't sound to me. You are using Native American techniques as well.
I am.
And why?
It's really, it's always resonated for me.
Okay.
And
I agree with you. I was just curious where you ran into it or what made you choose it.
Yeah, and I don't know, I always have stories. My grandmother, there's a book called 7 Arrows. And when my grandmother was on her deathbed, she said to my mother, my grandmother had like hundreds of books in her library. And she says, you need to get this one. She told my mom, you need to get this one book. It's called 7 Arrows. And my mom was like, okay. So my mom gets the book. She doesn't really understand why she's supposed to read this book. And it's about this. It was right before I was going to take this training, my equine guided certification, where I got exposed to the medicine wheel work. And the whole book it's built on stories around the medicine wheel.
Really?
Yeah. And so I actually pull a lot in my retreats out of that book.
Okay.
And so, whatever insight my grandmother had, that my mother, because my mother doesn't use the book. My mother gave me the book and said, I think you're supposed to have this.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
that's
I don't know what the underlying and why that all fits. And it's, the interesting things that happen in our life, the synchronicity of it all.
Right. And I think there are certain people that are really in tune or able to open their mind and accept all sorts of things.
Yeah.
You're definitely one of those people.
Oh, yeah.
Horses can pick up on that. So when we come back from the break, I want to ask you what happens when you encounter people that are not receptive, whatsoever, and how you attack that at your retreats right here on The Corral on GoMileHigh.com. It's the Corral on GoMileHigh.com, broadcasting live from the Rocky Mountain Horse Expo. I'm having a blast. If you can make it down here at the Denver Coliseum today and tomorrow, I've got the pleasure of broadcasting live today and tomorrow from 11 to 1. Kami Guildner is sitting with me to talk about her very unique and interesting work she does, helping people answer a question. Syzygy-co.com is her website. You can look her up on there. I highly recommend it. You've got retreats beginning in May. The 5th through the 6th is your first retreat, and there's still room.
There is.
If somebody would like to sign up for that. And then you go through September. So go up, meet horses. Just talking with Kami here, I feel calmer. You have a very... seriously, I do get stressed out a little. So you really do have a calming effect and are able to... however you do it, you understand
well, and
people.
I think it's the changes that I've gone through in the last several years. You had met me 5 years ago, you wouldn't have said that, I don't think. So I think that, yes, getting to work in this work that I do, it just totally puts me in a different place.
Right.
And, I'm more open to what's happening in nature. I'm tuned into the birds. I'm tuned into the horses. I'm tuned into the wind, the breeze, and is there...
Right. And people are more complex, but if they're open, you can tune into them as well. And before we went to break, I asked, what do you do when a person is just not receptive, when you can't get through to them? Do you have techniques, or do you find people that just put your horses off so much where you have to change your approach?
Well, I think people that are drawn to me, first of all, are in a place where they're ready to explore.
Right.
So to start with, there. Now, what you will get is, sometimes it's hardest with horse people. I'm a lifetime horse person, and I work with people who are not horse people, and I work with people who are lifetime horse people, and they might say, well, that particular thing is just a typical horse antic, and the question is always, well, I'm not trying to prove wrong or right. It's just what if just consider the possibilities of if that horse keeps doing what they're doing. The story I was just telling about the horse shaking the rope.
Right.
And he keeps doing it and he keeps doing it. So what are the possibilities of there's something else behind that they're reflecting back an emotion that's inside of us, or so you ask those questions, and almost always people get there.
Right.
And sometimes, and I'll say this, sometimes a horse person will be the hardest one to really keep seeing it and experience it, and they will open up. So, you just keep letting them experience the magic of what happens.
So it's very similar to training a horse. You keep giving it a cue until they understand
exactly. It's that patient piece. It's that, and people take out of the retreats what they're supposed to, where they are in their own journey. Some people are really ready for big breakthroughs and really ready for that next step in their life. And some people are just barely starting to do that exploration. Mm-hmm. So, we all come into a different spectrum of where we are in change in our life.
Okay. So I want to know a little bit about you personally. What do you do for fun? Not retreats, not self-exploration, anything like that. Just mindless fun between you and your horses.
Okay. Love to trail ride.
Okay.
Absolutely love to trail ride.
You're living in the wrong place if you don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's beautiful up there.
It really is. And I've actually come to discover that I love to play with the cows a little bit with the horses.
Really?
Yeah. So I've been doing some sorting. There's a little group of people that get together in my neighborhood that do some sorting with cows. And
really,
my paint mare loves it, and I have fun with it. And so it's just it's something different.
That's the fastest growing sport in horse right now is ranch versatility.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. It's just and it's my horse is a little bit cowy, and so it's been fun, and put me on a trail to go hike any day.
Okay.
So those sorts of things. I enjoy outside and being in nature.
Okay. Have you ever been in any sort of competitive division?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up. So I grew up in 4-H.
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate to, from the time I was 8 to 18, I was a 4-H'er. Showed all of those years. I showed in dressage for
Really?
When my son decided he wasn't, so my son was in 4-H when he kind of got to the right age, but he didn't last very long. His attention was going elsewhere to baseball and girls and that sort of thing.
That's so interesting because I meet so many people that are educators or open as you are, who have kids who grew up with horses, very similar to your situation and mine. And I would say the majority of them, their kids are not involved with horses. It's so interesting.
Yeah. And I think that for whatever reason, my son was ready. He was going to go do these other things, and so that was fine. And so, what that gave me was to say, okay, what would I like to do? I have his 4-H horse now, which is my old sage guy now.
Okay.
I have this horse. What do I want to do with him? And I thought, I've always wanted to do dressage. And so I got the opportunity to do probably about 10 years of dressage riding, and I did some showing then too. And
really? On the quarter horse?
On the quarter horse, and then I bred my Swedish warm blood. So,
okay.
So that was kind of that
So
path.
did you compete in the dressage?
I did compete. I mean, not big by any means. I dabbled. But it was fun, and it was, I learned a lot, and now I've kind of come back to, I mostly ride, I'm come back to the cow horse. And, and the trail riding, and so kind of come full circle for me on that. Okay.
Do you have any ideas in your mind that you're thinking about trying or new things or something nagging at you that you'd like to talk about, of course, in future plans for you?
Yeah. Definitely that personal growth piece of it is really great for me. I really enjoy that. But the flip side of it is I have 20 plus years in the leadership space as well, in the corporate world. And so I'm starting to bring teams in from a leadership perspective and team development, and bring some of the same kind of work to working with groups like that,
so more of a corporate retreat type.
Corporate retreats, and it's fascinating because all kinds of the leadership styles, the dynamics of leadership styles of a group, they get reflected from the horses. The different, what happens between teams dynamics.
Right.
So it's all, it's really a lot of fun work.
Well, I'm really interested to see where you go with that, and we will definitely keep in touch. It's such a pleasure to meet with you, and once again, Syzygy, SYZYGY-CO.com is your website, and I'm going to have a link to your Facebook on my Facebook. So check out Mile High Corral in the next couple of days, and you'll be able to find Syzygy on there as well. And thank you so much for joining us on the Corral right here on GoMileHigh.com.